You're listening to Subsound Radio. We bring you streaming and live broadcasting from the capital. This is the Alarpa Podcast. Welcome to part one of the Alarpa Podcast. We are back. We are in business. This is Podcast Go. Joining me in studio, as always, is the illustrious, the magnificent, the amazing...
Yourself?
The amazing Mary. So we have lots of news, but also, of course, some things, the more things change, the more they stay the same. Yes, we've been to another exhibition, but we bring even news of the Irish language of Gaeilge coming towards you. So if you want to know how to say August in Irish, stay tuned for part 2 or possibly part 3. That's another half an hour of listening time just to get to that little nugget of information. So Mary's back from wowing the audiences in Valencia with her archaeological talk. I've been in Madrid doing my thing.
Minding your business.
Minding your own business. And here we are to talk about another podcast. So this has been a very brief intro for what is going to be another stellar podcast. Do you agree with that?
No, I definitely agree.
Fantastic. So, what a point. Let's break here for the musical interlude and join again for part 2, which is the meat and bones, the gravy, the potatoes of what we do on the Alarpa Podcast. Part 2 is here. So we went to the Fundacion Mapfre, I believe. Yes, there's a lot of fundaciones around the city that connect to different businesses, which are fantastic cultural centres. So if you do live in Madrid, you should take advantage of them. Or if you're in the city, if you want it cheap/free, depending on the day or exhibition or place, you should check out the Fundacion Mapfre, Telefonica, which is close to Gran Via in the centre. There's a couple of Fundacion Mapfres, no?
Yes, there are 2. Yeah.
And Telefonica, and there's you have the Gaeilge Forum, which is connected to the bank, and I'm sure there's another one as well connected to some kind of institution.
Yeah, there are a couple of them connected to banks, but I can't remember right now the top of my head. Well, Canal, that's not a bank, but...
No. Well, there's a bar that we used to do exhibitions in, and remember that?
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, roaring success. Moving on swiftly. So we went to shocked by a €3 entry fee, but you got a reduction because you're a teacher in the local university.
No, even though, it anyway.
But you're not actually teaching anymore. So this is.
Card, come on! Like don't do that.
The card is technically invalid.
There's no expiry date
on education.
I've got friends who have been using the student card for the past 10 years.
Yeah.
Even if they left university.
That's because PhD students are not live in a bubble and don't live in the real world.
No, the people that have proper jobs.
I don't think so. What, study archaeology?
No, PhD students. I mean, I know people that have proper jobs that still use their student card.
Really?
Yes. So I've only just been sacked, even though I had no wage. So.
Yeah, well, taken on its own, I wouldn't mind so much. But the fact that you use your under 16 card on the bus
it wasn't.
Takes the biscuit. Something rotten. So we went there, and you are the one who saw this. Well, I thought we were going to go to another exhibition, which we should go to next week, which was the competition in the Greek world. I think it's in the Archaeological Museum.
Oh, that's in Casa Forum, but I didn't suggest it because I thought you might just not be interested.
Why?
Oh, it's okay because it's free for you because you've got a
Yeah, but why wouldn't I be interested in Greek culture?
No, to be honest, I thought I might find it a bit boring myself.
Okay, well, you said to the plumber yesterday you're a strange plumber. I'm gonna say to you today, you're a strange archaeologist.
Don't air all our dirty.
Dirty pipes on podcasts.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, at least I can't. There's no smell-o-vision or smell-o-casting on the old podcast here. But nevertheless, we digress. So we went. Finally, we're actually in the building at this point. We've been leading up to this point for a long time. We've been on the road. Now we're actually in the building. We paid for a €3 ticket and your €2 ticket. €5 in total.
Yeah.
I've paid.
That
you haven't given
paid.
me money. That's just a side note. We go through the barrier. We're in. We're actually finally in front of the photographs. Thank fuck. Thanks to the audience. So first of all, the name of the photographer. You're usually better at this than I am.
I was Nicholas Nixon.
Okay, not Nicholas Nickleby. Easy mistake to make. Charles Dickens novel. Check it out. It was so.
Yeah, not Richard Nixon either.
Well, claramente.
Claramente.
Amiga. So we saw lots of things. There's lots of portraits there. Of views of the city from an elevated angle. He started off with a Leica camera, which is a very nice camera, and then progressed onto another camera, which was
We've actually talked about a Leica camera before.
We have, and he progressed to a camera that was larger print and create kind of sharper images. And all that, like you could really see in the exhibition. So we've seen so we have the portraits of kind of poor kids, black and white in different neighborhoods. Pictures of both people. Picture of his wife and his sisters.
Black and white. The photos of the kids.
The kids and the
both,
photographs. Yes. So sorry, Doctor. Fucking specificity.
No, the photos were in color.
Were they?
The portraits.
Some of them were black and white. Yeah.
Anyway. Sorry,
anyway,
I interrupted you.
No worries. So we had old people, the photographs of his wife and their sisters taken over maybe 20 or 30 years.
Yes.
Pictures of people with AIDS. And then we had pictures of his house and his family, basically, of his brother and his children as they grew up in different stages of their life. So Richard Linklater could have saved you a lot of time making that movie. Just a lot cheaper taking photographs every 5 years of your suspect. He's the guy who made the movie Boyhood. Judging by your puzzled face, you don't know what I'm talking about. Anyway, which section grabbed your attention the most?
Well, I really like the porches section, the one that was about people like sitting, outside the houses.
Okay, yeah, because we were talking about this earlier. You weren't sure why that was happening, but I think that's a.
Yes, I must admit I've never crossed the pond, so I don't really know, I didn't know this was normal, but it just struck me that a lot of people...
Well, if you cross the pond from Spain, you get to Ireland. So...
yes. No, but, I've never been to the US, so I hadn't come across, these images of people just basically sitting around doing nothing, just outside their houses. I mean, I've seen it before in movies, but it kind of struck me in the pictures that there seemed to be a lot of people just watching the world go by. Sitting
on the stoop, yeah. Well, because we mentioned earlier, maybe there's greater sense of community and people just hanging out just to hang out. And we discussed this before about the Irish bar movie, the Irish pub movie, where people just go into the locals just to see the locals, and people just hanging around talking to each other. And you see this kind of at different exhibitions where people are just kind of on friendly terms with their neighbours and just watch the whole world go by, partly because of poverty, of nowhere else to go, but also as well because you have a strong sense of
free time but no money.
Exactly, but a strong sense of community spirit as well. Also, I thought, because we mentioned before, sometimes you see portraits of people, you think he's just a random person. I can't really see the significance of this maybe, but with these photographs, not only was it just interesting subject matter, but especially if you're very keen on photography as well, I think you'll really appreciate how these photographs are set up, because they're composed very well. There's great lighting, there's great angles, dimensions to it, There's a great picture of a guy who's opposite a white picket fence, and you can see his shadow, and it's just so clear. It's like an everyday image, but because it's taken so technically well and technically brilliantly, that fact alone makes it very impressive to look at. There's another photograph we mentioned as well before the podcast, which was of a girl in her, maybe she's 10, 11, 12, she's wearing her school t-shirt, and then her brother is on the opposite side of the porch door. You can't initially see him, so he's a surprise there in the photograph, and you see him suddenly, and then there's so many questions being raised. Is she just going to school and not him? is she wearing that because it's laundry day? I have no idea, you know. But also just the fact that there's like something hidden there. You don't know if it's timing. Was it set up like that, or how he actually set up his shots? But these are everyday things. But even in those things, there are secret facets and aspects, and they mention that in the blurb on the way into the exhibition, and doesn't always live up to that blurb. But I think in this case, it really was reflecting the framing and the context given by the Fundacion Mapfre.
I was actually gonna say that, because I'm always very worried by the blurb at the beginning, because then I never actually. It kind of like sometimes I think it's best not to read it, so yeah, you're not like you don't have like very high expectations, but then in this case it talked about like not only showing the physical aspect but also showing like the psychological factors or the emotional background around those people. And then when I read that, I thought, I'm not really gonna find that for sure.
Well, you've seen it before with Bruce Davidson, like he specialized in that as well.
Yes.
But to be fair as well, if you are in a situation where you're reading this, you do think bollocks. It's like
exactly.
the bullshit alarm is going off, because it's always the same where they find hidden things in their pictures. The story behind the story. And sometimes it's absolute hooey, to use the American parlance. In our times, it's done quite well, which has been done with Davidson, which also was in the same place, and with his exhibition today. Also, as well, the section on the AIDS people. Your reaction to that? AIDS,
No. Well, that I think that was an important thing. The photographs from the 80s, and then of course, it's not a completely accepted subject or to talk about nowadays anyway, but in the 80s of course it was like much worse, and it was important to give visibility to those people.
Because now it's not a death sentence.
That's true.
What's the phrase they use? I can't remember exactly, but they put it very succinctly and very well, like just 3 little letters, not a life sentence or something like that, and I can't remember the official slogan, but you might be familiar with it if you're listening to it. But even now, in this situation, I think the average life expectancy of somebody who's diagnosed with it today, for example, is 40 years after today. So you can still have a very healthy life. Obviously, a lot of drawbacks. It's not ideal, but the situation's changed quite a lot. But even now, with bearing that in mind, it still has a stigma attached to it.
Definitely.
And back in the 80s, even though you couldn't even get tested for half a decade, probably. I don't know what it was exactly, but there's a lot of fear going around there, and even more stigma. So to take these kind of photographs was quite political, quite conscientiously putting one, socially conscious, and putting one middle finger up to other sectors of society that maybe were appalled or horrified by people who were suffering with this terrible sickness, which at that time was a death sentence, and poorly understood as well. And also as well, Madrid does translations very badly. There's one in the metro, do not get groped, which also means do not get pickpocketed, because in Spanish it's the same phrase, but in English it is completely different. Caused a lot of controversy, but there's also a translation in this exhibition under this section. It's like, you see the love, the bravery, the cowardice. I mentioned this to you earlier. So it's kind of badly translated, but if you do see the photographs, you can judge for yourself. You see a lot of humanity in it, because people fading away. And if you've ever listened to Bruce Springsteen's song "The Streets of Philadelphia," he describes kind of the process of living and eventually dying with this sickness. It's kind of this is a pictorial representation of what he sings about in that as well. So it's quite moving, for sure. And also we mentioned the section of his sisters and his wife. So you like this part as well. Why was that?
Well, I found it quite interesting because it was a series of photos from 1970 something until 2017 actually. Because this photographer is one of the few, if not the only one, who's still alive, of the ones that we've
it's true.
See. Yeah. So that was like quite an added factor to it. So some of the photos were very, very recent, and well, I don't know, at first when I read the blurb and it said it was a series of photos taken year after year or the same for women, I thought, well, this is not like very original. But then actually it was very interesting because it wasn't just about seeing how they changed physically. That wasn't really the most important thing. But for me, you could see like how personalities changed to as far as you can tell from the photo, but you know, like some years where people were more confident or less confident or more defiant, or the relationships between, you know, the various sisters. Some of them, like two of them were closer, or one of them always seemed to be quite set apart, and one seemed to be the most, like, you know, strongest one.
There's so many elements to play up, because they might be just in that moment look not confident, or, you know, like photography is supposed to reveal a hidden truth, like they mentioned in the blur, but here it's just photocopying like a moment of real people. And if you saw this on the street, you're just using your intuition to read the body language, and you don't know if your intuition is accurate or not. So it's kind of flipping what we're expecting and what we're told to expect in this exhibition as well. So it's just like, can we read people? And when they're so kind of conscious, like so obviously posed, less so, you know, in comparison to the other portraits and pictures where people are just kind of hanging around, it's much easier to interpret. Now, they mentioned in the exhibition that like you take it, like it started maybe in 1977, I don't know. Like if it did, for example, and apologies for the lack of preciseness with dates, but you know, we're getting this time into the podcast after the last couple of years. But if he started taking the pictures in 1976, he said he took one the year before, but he didn't like it. I don't really understand that, to be honest with you, because for me, technically, the photographs, words, like amazing, you know, in terms of how they're photographed. But as I said to you earlier, you're kind of going through the years, and I was just like, well, I'm eventually going to come to a photograph where there's somebody missing, which hasn't happened. They're all alive.
Yes, you were a little bit pessimistic.
Well, this
that hadn't even crossed my mind, but fair enough.
Death stalks us at every turn. Anyway, so so that's kind of like, it just creates that human interest, and it's just kind of fascinating to see something so consistently photographed over such a period of time. It's interesting because like he loves his wife. He said she's the best thing that ever happened to him. But he loves the family, the sisters, and everything. He thinks they're so strong and so wonderful, and everything as well. You know, so, and even when he describes his kids, he took us in the downstairs section of this exhibition. He talks about how his kids' skin looks so beautiful and supple and just photographable and everything like that. So he's a man, obviously, who walks around and sees things in a photographic eye, you know, even his own family. So there's a lot of merit to that. That being said, the photographs of his house were complete crap. But well, I'm just joking for effect. But they were poor in comparison to the rest of the exhibition. But then again, he's probably at the end of his career here and phoning it in. If I might speculate about that. Is there anything else that you want to mention about this old exhibition?
No, I think we've covered pretty much everything that there was to say. I mean, I think this was definitely one worth seeing, and to be honest, it was quite satisfying to go through a photographic exhibition in one of these foundations where you actually, you know, it sort of communicated something, and it wasn't just like words.
Yeah, I understand. Madrid is a great city because there are so many cultural centres that are free, but very often it's very sparse what's in there, and what can you expect? It's free.
Yeah.
But that being said, there are a lot of situations where they do produce good content, and you know, you can never criticize free culture anyway. So it is a thriving cultural area, but yeah, when you actually see something that is noteworthy and remarkable, it does leave an effect, because like we mentioned in the previous podcast, we went to the anniversary of the Spanish elections exhibition, which was fine, but just very, very basic as well. So so if you're in Madrid, go see it. If not, look up the name, which is
Nicholas Nixon.
Okay, so a lot of those photographs should be on Google Image anyway.
Yeah, I would have thought so.
And all that. So before we finish this part, a chord, Quando se tatu, gama. Diego it gama. So this elfin gypsy language. What is this? It's Irish. It's music to my ears. So you've been doing a lot of study. So you learned the months and the days, and something grabbed your attention about Lunasa, which is August, which is the last day today. Tomorrow is October. Is it tomorrow? No, it's not. What? Where am I?
No, tomorrow is the first day of autumn.
Oh yeah, that's what it was.
Yes, so it's interesting because...
And it's the first day of the rest of your life.
That too, yeah.
Okay.
And
Seem less convinced by that. I don't know why you called me the cynic earlier, but this is little surprising.
Okay. And Wednesday.
And Wednesday, least importantly. But yeah, Lunasa is the it's autumn, right? No, what it's August. Yeah, I'm getting confused here.
Yes.
Yeah. So
no, not August. September and October. That's the thing that we wanted to talk about.
Yeah. That's what it was. Yeah. So what was it that struck you about this?
Well, September, October are called like literally the middle and the end of the autumn/harvest.
Exactly. And yeah, because we were talking earlier that obviously in English, for example, if you're on a Julian calendar, it's Latin based, no? Though Thursday, for example, comes from like Norse gods, for example. So it's so it's an English language, but it's coming from a little bit of Latin, a little bit of Norse mythology. But this Irish months and kind of days are coming from Irish culture, because this is before. Well, this is obviously when the Irish language was thriving. We weren't colonised, and we weren't speaking this language of the invader.
This language that you're speaking right now.
Exactly, which hurts my soul. No ends. And also as well because, I mentioned to you before, Brian Friel's Dancing at Lunasa. We've done a podcast on his other play translations, which is actually talking about this transfer between Irish to English in Ireland. And so this whole is a dance at the end of harvest, and it's a wonderful play. So if you ever get a chance to read it or see it, I would recommend that as well. So this is something that kind of grabbed your attention, to the fact that it was based on Irish culture, not kind of imported from a foreign culture. No.
Mm-hmm.
Are you a Brexit supporter, by the way?
No, sure, not. But well, I think we might be doing something about this. I think it's worth spending more time and explaining to our
followers,
couple of listeners.
We're getting a lot of listeners on the
I'm joking.
podcast app.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's pretty cool. So as I said, you've been learning the days and the months, and you're using Duolingo, which is not a paid sponsorship from us. Also, there's a comments feature, so if you do a section and see a word, you can see maybe some comments attribute it to it.
Oh yeah.
A lot of people giving out that bogs were being discussed on the Irish part of the.
Yeah, well, some people are never happy.
Exactly. Well, bogs are fantastic. So first, we have a situation here. We're on 1952 seconds. Let's just keep nattering away until 20 minutes. I just feel kind of emotionally better about that.
So you're gonna start.
Yeah. Here.
Now?
Bye. Well, thanks for being with us for part 2. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. Find us on alarpamedia.com, the new website. Twitter is alarpa1, and we have an Instagram account which you've mentioned in previous podcasts. We will start using that eventually and adding those old photographs on them. Little parish notices. Today, I believe, there's a huge Sinn Féin. I got a letter from Dáil Éireann. I was going to give you a little taste of this. Jerry Adams, I think, well, he didn't actually write to me directly, but there's the 100th anniversary of the death of Ireland's first hunger striker and Kerry patriot Thomas Ashe. A number of Kerry Republicans. I can't read while doing a podcast, seemingly. So a number of Kerry Republicans set out to write a book on the sacrifice made by Thomas Ashe in 1917. So that they mention Ashe, McSweeney, Bobby Sands, and so they talk about other. So in the book they explore the lives of 22 men. It's tonight basically in Tralee. A guy I went to university with, Paul O'Cleavon, is on the committee, and there'll be a launch. Well, it'll be launched by Jerry Adams, so I won't be there. It's an announcement. I'm in Spain. So
that was the announcement. The announcement is you won't be there.
Yeah, well, that was more or less. But I thought people would like to know what's happening in Tralee Because they might be famous for the Roses of Leaworth, which is basically a glorified lovely girls competition, but there are also Republican activities there, which we must cherish and celebrate. That was parish notices from the parish of Moi. What about you? Is there anything parish notice wise, Sister Mary?
I don't know. There was something I wanted to talk about, but I forgot what it was.
Don't worry. Well, we're going to be chatting your progress with the old Irish. We made a video last week, which is up on our YouTube channel. And what else? Well, we're going to.
Oh yes, I was gonna say check out your poem readings.
Oh yeah, also on the same YouTube channel. Yeah, the less said about those, the better. But yeah, do check out the Irish video, and we'll be making another follow-up second part. We're going to make this a weekly series. We're going to chart your progress down this route. Or lack well, indeed. And so we'll be making another. We meant to do it today, but we didn't. So we just we'll do it on Monday instead, and we'll be edited at some point. I would imagine. So I will say, adios, amigos.
And I'll say Slán, I guess.
Slán, perfect. That's the shot. You're listening to Subsound Radio. We bring you streaming and live broadcasting from the capital. This is the El Arpa Podcast.